See? But then I wasn't all that surprised. Well, I guess I was somewhat by the blatancy presented in it. But then I realized that the collectivists, the deviants, the central planners are trying their best to raise and adopt a whole new platform that'll keep their ideology entrenched, right? As long as people don't understand the truth or feel that lying is normal in any way, in any aspect, then the truth will forever remain elusive and subjective. That is foundational, and that is a key premise to the collectivists. They have to promote that. Otherwise, if truth is ever allowed to flourish, if honesty, if objective truth, if reality, if logic and reason is allowed to flourish, well, the gig's up for the collectivists, right? So here we go. Listen to this headline. Why lying is a sign of healthy behavior for children. I'm going to read this article and then I'll read along and then I'll cover the aspects that I find I have to deal with. Although most of you that watch this video, you'll probably already be, chomping at the bit, ready to intervene with your own dialogued or reaction to this kind of shit. But let's just start, all right? Underneath, if you discover your 2-year-old is telling the lie, instead of being alarmed, you should celebrate. Man, what a difference to the kind of shit that I grew up on, where truth and honesty were great virtues. They were instilled in all of us, predominantly when we were kids, that telling the truth was a virtue and being honest was a virtue. Lying, might help you to a certain degree in the here and now, but it was wrong because of the long-term pains and consequences for doing so. But nowadays, look how things have flipped upside down. So, of course, this is just completely in line with the collectivist ideology. The next time you catch your child shouting out, "It wasn't me," while standing next to a knocked-over houseplant, fear not. Ongoing research at the University of Toronto, Collectivist Central, CC, suggests a link between kids who are savvy liars and their future social success. Well, first, okay. Kids with juvenile delinquencies tend to be poor liars, says Kang Lee. Kang Lee? Yeah, he's a collectivist, more than likely. The article expresses that. I'm not going to presume just based on the name, but based on the article and the narrative, combined with the name, yeah. 1 + 1 = 2. 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. Sorry. Kids who lie early, who lie better, are the kids who are going to develop normally. So, well, if you develop normally by being better liars, does that not mean you're adapting to a socially sick society? And don't we all understand, or I think most of us should, is being well adapted to a sick society does not make you a good person, just makes you just part of that nasty, sick fucking society. But this person seems to think that's okay. Well, at least you're part of the collective, which is why I will never want anything to do with being part of the collective. You wonder why I hold myself and allow myself to be beat down by the collectivists whenever they get the chance. Rather than join them, I'll let them beat me to the death if need be, but I will never join you fucks. And this is why. Not just for me, but for future generations, for my kids, for anyone that values truth, honesty, objective reasoning, logic, right? I'll stand firm against your bullshit propaganda. And you're going to need a big fucking axe if you want to knock me down. But you go ahead. Swipe away, motherfuckers. If you discover your 2-year-old is telling a lie, instead of being alarmed, you should celebrate, says Lee, the director of the Child Development Research Group at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education. Your child has arrived at an important stage of his or her life. Lee has spent more than 20 years studying how and why children lie. So I suppose that, think of it, that one little sentence is supposed to tell you, that's the narrative from the propaganda says, well, you better believe this guy, because supposedly he has spent 20 years understanding. Do you see how that works? Do you understand how propaganda works? He's found that by age 2, about 30% of kids are able to pull off a convincing lie. By age 3, about 50% can lie successfully. And by 4, about 80% can do it. Lying signifies social savvy. Kids who aren't able to successfully lie alongside their peers tend to run into problems. Yeah, of course they do. These children will tend to tell lies more frequently and they can be easily spotted, says Lee, adding that this deficit makes socializing much more difficult. The lack of social savvy can make a person develop abnormally. The ability to pull off a convincing lie is a sign of 2 important milestones in a child's development. The ability to recognize that what is going on in one's own mind is different from what's going on in someone else's mind, theory of mind, and the ability to regulate one's behavior and actions, executive function. I don't know what the fuck these losers are trying to read or the kind of bullshit they're trying to put forth, but yeah, I mean, come on. Without these 2 key milestones, children tend to lie poorly and frequently, and they tend to have conduct issues. Kids who develop typically tend to tell good lies, says Lee, adding that these good lies are so nicely crafted, even adults often can't tell they're lying. Contrary to the commonly held belief that honesty is the best policy, these are pro-social reasons to lie. There are pro-social reasons to lie. If we're going to be a thriving society, we have to learn to lie, says Lee. We are social beings and we have to work with others. In some situations, we may have to tell lies to achieve that goal. That's why we should not blindly think that honesty is the only policy. An example of pro-social lies are white lies that protect others' feelings, such as thanking your grandmother for a sweater she made, even if you think it's ugly. I mean, you see how that propaganda has worked? That's called a sleight of hand. Just like a magician, they rely on your foolishness and you're willing to allow that sleight of hand to take place and believe in it, even though if you analyze what they did, there's no trick involved. It's just well-crafted lies. It's so paradoxical on one hand. We try to socialize kids to be honest, but if they're brutally honest, something's likely going to be wrong with them, says Lee. I would never have anticipated this. We have a collective investment in dishonesty, says David Livingstone Smith at University of New York. Notice that they're all from the fucking universities? From modern academia? Well, where do you think the propagandas come from? The collective cohorts are propagated, nurtured, and nourished in modern academia. That's how their brains are developed in modern academia, so that they can be molded to believe in the bullshit. Whatever bullshit the state tells them, they'll walk away from academia believing that nonsense. Just like of the religions of old, right? Jesus. Professor and author of Why We Lie, The Evolutionary Roots of Deception and the Unconscious Mind. Lying oils the wheels of social interaction. A measure of dishonesty isn't optional. It's necessary. Well, he points out the lying can be very persuasive to the point that we convince ourselves of our own lies. Yeah, of course they can be very... Look at politics. Lying, as long as it's presented in a way that is perceived as having any legitimacy, yeah, of course. But he's promoting deceiving and lying where the ends or the means dictates the end. So, I mean, of course, if everyone lies, you might be able to make that lie seem believable to the masses, but is that really good? I mean, it's hard on the head, man. It's hard on the fucking head to have to deal with this shit because, I mean, what do you say about this? Really, only 3 or 4 words should be necessary, but because they put so much work and effort into telling you that lying's good, I guess this is the thing. I have to waste this much time trying to tell you the lying is bad because they try to convince you that lying is good. So I have to present, a big whole professional fucking thing. Maybe I should have charts, right? Will that convince you enough that lying's fucking bad? It should not need to be so goddamn fucking complicated, people. Lying is bullshit. Lying is deception. Deception is underhanded. It's deceitful. In order to do well in the social world, we need to deceive ourselves and project a shiny image of ourselves to others, says Smith. It says a lot about Smith. He suggests a recent example of this is the case of NBC News anchor Brian Williams, who over the course of a decade told a false story about being in a helicopter being shot in Iraq in 2003, which was a complete bullshit. But where the fuck did that help anybody? It's very easy to misremember, especially when misremembering enhances one's position or status. Studies show that most people are consciously aware of lying once or twice a day. It doesn't happen more regularly, in part, Lee says, because if a person is caught in a lie, they risk becoming socially ostracized. So the whole thing is to be a good liar. To be a good lawyer or liar or politician. It's all the same shit. There are 3 words that mean the exact fucking same thing. Is to be a good fucking propagandist, a good liar, and that's somehow beneficial in any way. Well, let me tell you, I do recognize that, yeah, if I was a great liar and a deceiver and a sociopath such as this fucking asshole, of course it would better me. But I have this thing in my brain that tells me that oppressing, controlling, dictating, manipulating other people's lives, it might benefit me, and I know that it will benefit me. But I have this weird thing where I understand that it's actually going to be a detriment and devastating to the people on the other end of the spectrum. I have this thing called empathy and compassion, and have the capacity to put myself in another person's place where I can see where how me lying might benefit me, but it's going to be devastating and hurtful and painful and has massive, actually, I guess, intended consequences for others. I don't want to put on to others negative consequences just because I want to be selfish and lie and deceive them. That's fucking bullshit, you know it. Anyone that would even propagate this bullshit, or anyone that's going to agree with this, if you hear 3 words uttered out of the mouth in any kind of agreement with this article, walk away. Actually, run away as fast as you can. Because these people are no one that you want to associate with. Skinny libertarian. And I love liberty, not to mention the truth.